Hello, my name is Jill and I am really excited to be able to talk to you lovely ladies today. I wish that it was real live in person, but this is our new normal for a while. So I'm talking to you from my studio space in Denmark. Now, it was quite a surprise to be asked to do this, to be honest. Despite being at Queen's the entire way through from Stamford House through to my A-levels, I never really thought of myself as a proper Queen's girl. I think that I'd never fulfilled the academic criteria. I wasn't a house captain or the head girl. I wasn't brilliant at anything particularly. I wasn't on sports teams, except for once I was picked for rounders, which I think was by accident. If you saw me playing frisbee, you would understand. I was in the lowest set for maths, terrible at science. So actually, when I was asked to do this, I thought that I was being asked if I could recommend somebody. And even my husband said, "You? They asked you? Why? Don't they normally ask like celebrities or CEOs?" I did point out that I am the CEO of my own company, but I just don't choose to call myself that. But basically, I was really pleased to hear that Queens are trying to be a little bit more anti-establishment and promote the fact that the well-trodden routes aren't necessarily the right ones to take. And it's much more about what's right for you, not what fulfills social norms. And I think all of this says something about how perceptions of skills and success have changed in the last 2 decades and what's now valuable and important for now and for the future. My job is actually as a trend forecaster and a brand strategist, and I'll come back to what that means. But if you told me that that was what I was going to be doing back when I was school, I probably would have laughed in your face, hopefully not in a rude way, but mostly because I wouldn't have understood what you were talking about, but also because I was quite convinced that I was going to be a fighter pilot. Unfortunately, I don't have the vision. Second choice was a pop star. I was big into Kylie, and then neither of those worked out, but after that, I wasn't really bothered. I just didn't really think about it. I didn't know, and that never bothered me, and it still doesn't because I still don't know. The pressure to know what you want out of life only mounts as you get older. Everybody expects you to have an answer, and it's exhausting. I don't believe that we should put the pressure on ourselves or on anybody else to know the answers to those questions. Pursue what you love and what interests you. And ultimately, it doesn't really matter what you choose because it's about the way that you pursue it, and it's your attitude to life that counts. I actually opted to study an art foundation course at West Cheshire College after my A-levels. And then I went on to study undergraduate in fashion marketing and then a master's in design at Northumbria University in Newcastle. And since then, I've had a pretty diverse and varied career. I don't think that I have ever found my thing. I'm still working it out, and I believe that that's healthy. Imagine planning exactly how you're going to spend your life, what you do, where you do it, who you do it with. Firstly, it's really boring, and secondly, you're just setting yourself up for disappointment because life never works out as you plan it to, and it would be foolish to think that it might. The best thing that you can do is arm yourself with the skills to prepare yourself for any number of possible futures. Which leads me to where I want to be telling you what I want to tell you today. Firstly, that there is no set path to life. The future is yours to shape and create. So please make it a good, positive one. And secondly, that the skills that you need to survive in the future are creativity and lateral thinking. And you can train those skills, and you need to train those skills if you want to live a truly satisfying life. I said that I'm a trend forecaster and a brand strategist. What that means is that it's my job to research the future and then tell people, brands and businesses what they need to design and market in order to give people things that they really want and really need to make the future more positive. So I research interesting topics about the future, like the decline in creativity, how we want to own less stuff, so stuffication. And then I give presentations about it to inspire businesses to behave differently. Brands pay me to position them, so to help them position themselves better for the future, to be more relevant in the future, often called brand positioning or strategy. And then I also teach trend forecasting because I love to help people develop themselves and their ideas. And I really believe that we can use, or we should use, the power of what we know about the future in order to make ourselves and the world a better place. So I teach at universities and I also run my own courses. Now, I have my own business doing all of this 2 days a week, and then I actually work for an agency, a design agency, doing something similar 3 days a week. You can tell that I am not into towing the line or doing the normal thing because I called my business The Future Thief, and I work for an agency called Stupid Studio. Now, these businesses, this work is my main money earner, but I actually do quite a few different things. So I basically have a portfolio career or a / career. I like a lot of stuff, and it's important to me that I do those things all the time. It's part of who I am, and it's important to me that I live my life in an authentic way. So I'm also a fitness instructor, and I'm studying to be a personal trainer, and I also have a side hustle as a wedding dress designer, making wedding outfits with a friend. You can shape your life around your values. It's possible once you have enough experience, enough knowledge, and you've made enough mistakes. And the learning part is really fun. I've always been a bit of a free spirit, independent, creative, and despite the fact that it's my job to research the future, I've never really been much of one for planning my own. I've always thrived off change, even though I'm quite frightened of it. But I've loved to learn new things, and I put myself in really terrifying situations because I love the feeling of accomplishment when I've done it. Even if I fail, I love the fact that I tried, and it feels so good to do that. And when you live in a country where you don't really fully understand the language, it really throws you in at the deep end, and highlights the fact that you just need to chuck yourself in and have a go. I've learned to be a spinning instructor, I learned to paddleboard, and I've even bought a house in Danish, not really understanding what was going on any of the time. But I did it. I succeeded in my own way, and I'm happy. I learned a lot. But your fear of risk increases as you age, so I'm really worried about mine. I can already feel it diminishing, which really scares me. And I believe that the greatest things happen when you take risks. This isn't unique to me, that's a proven fact. Safe is boring, and no good ideas or world-changing innovations ever came out of playing it safe. Creativity relies on risk, and creativity is essential for the future. And I'll come back to that. But the risk thing is really important because without really realizing it, it's actually the way that I've lived my life. Don't read the rules, jump straight in, and learn to swim as you go. You can end up in some pretty hairy situations, but who cares? You're smart, you're resourceful, you'll find your way. The point is that life is all about experiencing all of its joyful technicolor. What are you going to learn? What are you going to experience if you stay home, play it safe, and don't take any risks? I got my place at university by taking some risks. I made a phone call to the course leader and asked if I could have an interview because even though it was past the application deadline, because I wanted to study fashion design and I applied to St Martin's in London, which is like the Oxbridge of fashion colleges. I didn't get a place. I don't know if I'd ever expected to, but it meant that I had to create a plan B or C. So I called the course leader and she told me that they were very interested in St Martin's rejects. Nice. But she invited me for an interview the following week and I got a place and I started a few months later. Still to this day, I am convinced that my approach to getting a place was part of the reason, or a large part of the reason for being accepted. Yeah, of course, I could draw and I've got the design skills that were necessary, but it was my personality and my attitude that they were looking for. I started university with this commitment to myself to take advantage of every single opportunity, within reason, that came my way. I was older, I was 21 when I started, and I was more able to make a conscious decision about what and how I wanted to learn. I'd worked and I'd studied, I'd travelled around North America and Canada and Europe before uni, so I had some kind of life experience, and that made the whole thing a lot richer and more valuable. So of course I became a student representative, I wrote for the local paper, I did styling projects for the local paper, and I jumped at the chance to be the student who did a creative project for free because I just thought, I'm going to learn loads, I'm going to meet loads of people, and it's just going to be so interesting. I was excited about the experience and the diversity. And I've kept that approach ever since, and it's taken me on this wild and wonderful journey. I've said yes to a lot of opportunities. My first job was as a fashion communication lecturer at the university while I was studying my master's. And I was also interning for this tiny trend forecasting startup agency. The owner also taught at the university. I said, oh, that sounds really fun. Can I come and help you? And that's how that started. I became the fashion editor of a startup magazine that never even got published. I did so many random freelance and part-time creative writing, research jobs, all sorts of stuff. Keeping up? No? That's okay, that's the point. Then I decided that I wanted to work and live abroad. I'd always wanted to do it, but I was like, yeah, this is the time. And an opportunity came up to be a fashion design lecturer at a college in Hanoi in Vietnam. I'd never lived abroad. I'd never been to Vietnam. I thought it sounded exciting and exotic. I was in. 10 days later, I moved. I was there for 10 months. I was desperate for the adventure. 10 months and it was a roller coaster. The job was terrible. I didn't get on with the boss. I missed home. I earned next to nothing. But man, was it an experience. I met so many different people. I traveled. I lived in a very different culture for a whole year. I overcame lots of problems and difficulties, and I built a network that I still have today. By the time I left, I'd been offered jobs as the editor of the country's expat magazine and as a handbag designer for a friend's company. I turned both down, and I chose to return to the UK. Was that right? I don't know. I'll never know. But I knew at the time, and I still know, that if I changed my mind and if it was a real offer, I could call up my friend and I could be there tomorrow. Maybe I will. But I moved back in part because I had a long distance boyfriend, but also because the main reason really was that I wanted to get a real job. So I've been a fashion lecturer for almost 2 years full time, and I thought it was time that I did some proper work, which I realised afterwards was a mistake. But anyway, I ended up moving back to London, and I got an interview at a research and innovation agency through a friend. I didn't really know what that meant, but what I discovered was that it ticked a lot of my boxes. It was about being curious. It was about researching people and trends in creative, interesting ways. And it was also about helping brands decide and create what they did next, which sounded really exciting. Why wouldn't I want to be interested? I'd do that for sure. And my first project was actually about tampons and sanitary towels, which was not sexy, but it was actually one of the most interesting projects I've ever worked on. I then did the same sort of work for about 14 years, working for all around the world for agencies and brands, trying to understand the way that the world is changing and why people behave as they do. I've worked with all sorts of brands: Nike, Converse, Lego, H&M, Johnson & Johnson, IKEA, The Sun, newspaper, Blossom Hill Wine, Red Bull, and a host of other brands that you will never have heard of. I've been the marketing manager of an extreme running clothing company for people who run marathons, 100 miles marathons in the jungle. I've got drunk with boys in Manchester to understand drinking, for research, obviously. I've been shopping in Seoul to understand anti-fashion. I have played in playgrounds in Japan to understand the future of play. I could tell you about the future of bread, retail, dating, health insurance, so many different things, and I loved it. So interesting. It was fascinating, and I wouldn't change a thing, but some of it was truly awful. I had one job for 2 years where I cried many nights because I didn't want to go to work the next day. I chose the job for the wrong reasons, to fulfill a norm of earning more money, furthering my career, and furthering a career that I wasn't interested in. I've made mistakes, but not enough of them. I've been made redundant so many times, and every single time it's been a blessing. It's been a kick up the butt that I could never have given myself. I've pivoted direction so many times and never regretted a single one of them. There are only 2 regrets that I have in life. One is not working hard enough for my A-levels. And secondly is turning down an internship at Vogue. No idea why I did that, but there we go. But I now live in a small town in Denmark. And my husband, the long-distance boyfriend, he worked out. But he's a toy designer. So he got the job at Lego, which is based in Denmark. And I agreed, yeah, I'll move too, because it sounded fun to try somewhere else. It wasn't quite what I had imagined, that it would be New York or Shanghai or Hong Kong or Paris. after London, but you know, I go where the wind blows me, and I take the opportunities that throws at me. I realised that I wanted to be in charge of my life, my time, and my work. Freedom and independence are my greatest values, and that means being able to choose how I spend my time and what I'm doing with it. So I chose to use the move as an opportunity to shape and design my life so that I can do the things that I really enjoy, which is where I'm at now. I hate only having one job. I become miserable and I'm not valuable because I feel resentful, I feel unfulfilled, and I need to have loads of things going on in order to feel happy and to feel useful. So I have learned that about myself over time. I would only have learned that through experience of doing so many different things. So I'm slowly building my life into something that's authentic to me, and it evolves every day. It's so exciting. I hope that you can do the same. Don't be put off by the dead ends or the rejections or the failures. Just turn around, change direction, and try a different approach. These things are much easier to do if you use the creative part of your brain. Everybody is creative. It's just a matter of training that process and practicing it. Now, creativity underpins every single job for the next 15 to 20 years. Being able to solve problems, being able to be entrepreneurial, think about the future. They are all essential to survival as a person and as a business, no matter what your job is. Now, this is important because we're at a point in the world now where we're experiencing a lot of disruption. Things in the world are broken and they need fixing. The way that we do things in life and business, it makes no sense anymore. There are big things that are broken: money, work, business, relationships, education. The way that we view all other living things on this planet. So we've exhausted supplies, we've made too much stuff, and we've treated our planet's resources very unkindly. So you and I have to champion the fact that there is no set way of doing things. And there are no rules, and we need creative thinking in order to solve the problems that we're facing. You are smart women. You are privileged to have the education that you have. Never forget that. But the path that you've taken up to now doesn't define you. It's just starter. Any of you made sourdough bread over lockdown? So there's a starter culture. Your education is the starter culture. It's not done. It needs to be fed. It needs to be nurtured. It's not about the grades you get or where you studied. It's about what you do with it next. So we're incredibly lucky to have had the starter that we have. It's like the organic, locally sourced type of sourdough starter. We need to look after it. So now go and give it the respect that it deserves. Feed it. Add seeds, add chili, make it marbled, spice it up. Experiment, leave it on the windowsill to go black and bring it back from the dead. Do things differently. You may be wondering what to make of this very varied and crazy journey that I have been on. And you've probably worked out by now that I'm not the sort of person who wants to do one thing forever. Maybe you're like me, or maybe you're the opposite, or maybe you haven't got a clue yet. That's fine. Whichever it is, don't be scared of if things just don't work out as you expect. Because life doesn't follow a straight path, so don't plan for it. You've got a long time ahead of you, so you need to prepare for a roller coaster where you're building the track as you go. I'd go so far as to say that you should be looking for opportunities to make your life unexpected, make it messy. And approaching your life like this is going to make you stronger and more resilient. You'll be able to do a deal with whatever comes your way. You'll be adaptable. And you can adapt to the stuff that life throws at you. It's like yoga and strength training for life. But whatever you do, prioritize the opportunities over the obstacles. Don't take no for an answer. Find a side door if you need to. Don't take things at face value. Question everything. Challenge the norms and use your future to do something positive for the world. Good luck.